Hey everybody, welcome to How to Pitch Part 5. We're going to go ahead and get started as we've hit the noon time. So I'm Bull Holland, and what we've done to this point is we've talked to you first about avoiding that idea when you start a pitch of talking about what your product is. What we want you to do is talk about what the problem is and stay focused on that for the majority of your pitch. The next thing we talk to you about is not only defining the problem, but then describing more about how the research you've done shows that no one else is solving this problem. We gave you a little background on how to provide visual presentations. Then we talked to you about the important part of how you're really going to describe this problem in terms of the pains it causes someone or the gains that some people get by, the gains people get from the jobs that they have to do. Now we're actually going to talk about the thing you wanted to talk about in the first couple of minutes, which is your pain relievers and your gain creators, but it's probably still not going to be quite exactly the way you wanted it. And we're going to show you at the end, when we get to our 6th session, we'll show you how to bring all that together and give you a template for when you're ready to do your pitch for real. So we introduced this idea last time. This is the value proposition canvas. It's from Alex Osterwalder and his company, Strategizer. What it does a great job is really helping you connect how someone would use your product to solve a problem. So we talked about the right-hand side of this last time, and you don't get a vote on this. These are the jobs that people have to do and what makes the job hard or what it is they love about the job, the pains and the gains. What you have to do prior to your pitch is go out and collect all the information that allows you to truly succinctly define this and start telling stories about it. This is the place where you want to be able to connect with the person you're trying to convince that there's a real problem that affects real people that you really have the ability to solve. So today we're going to talk about the left-hand side of this canvas, and this is where your products and services come in. Now, you would think if you've got 8 minutes to do a pitch, you want to spend 7.5 of them talking about exactly how your thing works. It's really kind of the opposite. You probably want to spend about 7 minutes talking about what the problem is, who it affects, giving stories, giving statistics, and then spending a few minutes talking about how someone would use your product instead of exactly what the product features are. And that's what we're going to get into a little bit about today. So I'm sorry, but no one really cares about the exact product specifications of what you're trying to sell, except for maybe some of the geeks, right? But the person you're trying to sell probably is not the kind of technical expert you are in solving the problem. So if your flux capacitor needs 1.21 gigawatts, they don't care. So this isn't the time for you to spend talking about what those product specifics are, how much it weighs, how much power it takes, what the range of it is. The thing you need to get to right away is how it solves a problem for someone else. So you remember what we did to this point. Hey, here's the problem. Here's why no one else is doing it. Now, let me give you these examples of when people try and do this job, the pains that they run into. I want to talk to you about how what I do is a pain reliever. So think about this for a second. All those product features, your 1.21 gigawatts, they just sit there absent any human being. They exist in perpetuity, in situ. It's not until a human being goes and makes some use of that thing you're making that it actually performs a function, that it actually has a capability, that it's actually a pain reliever. So what you've got to do right away at this point is you've convinced the person that you're talking to that there's a problem. You convince them it's for that a lot of people have the problem. Now you got to connect how they're going to use what it is you've created in order to solve that problem. And this is the real essence of where, if you've done it right, your pitch gets easy. Because if you spent the first few minutes really convincing this person that there's this big problem to be solved and it affects these people and they're tied to it, by this point in the presentation, they're rooting for you. They want to hear what it is they can help you do to solve this problem. And so this again is where you got to tell a story. You got to make it real for them and connect what the current situation is and the problem that's faced to the future that could be if your solution was implemented. And that only makes sense when you talk about it in terms of how a human being will use it. Because again, just stating, well, it's got 1.21 gigawatts doesn't answer the mail in any way, shape, or form. So you've got to avoid jargon when you talk about this, and again, make it real. So if you're in the Army community And I said, hey, look, you ride the wind in that MC4 and the FLS, you're looking at a whole day of vitamin M. That means nothing to a normal human being. I just said that if you turn the wrong way in your parachute and hit the hard packed landing strip, you're going to be eating a lot of Motrin. Look at the difference, right? Yeah, it might be cool if you think you've got the inside track and you're speaking the lingo with people, but you're going to alienate everyone else. So make sure you just say this in plain language. Big words are not your friend when you're trying to do this pitch. Make it so everyone can understand it. And again, you got to focus on what the pain reliever is how a human being uses your product or service, not the product or service as it sits there by itself. Now, I focus a lot on the pains because frankly, this is the easiest thing for people to connect with. It's the easiest thing for you to think about how to fix. It's the easiest thing for other people to relate to in terms of what they want to see happen. But honestly, the grand slam home run happens with the gains. When we talked about gains and gain creators, if you've got a job and your job is to be a service member, a pain might, if you're a mechanic, a pain might be that you can't get parts on time, but a gain for you might be that you get to go back in front of your family and everyone respects you as a non-commissioned officer in the United States Air Force, the United States Navy, the United States Army. That's the kind of gain you get from your job. Those are the reasons that people get up in the morning and do their job. No one gets up in the morning to do their job and say, man, I really hope I can avoid this pain today. They get up in the morning and continue to do the job because it's what motivates them. The guy you see on the screen here is a fellow named Simon Sinek. He had a really, really powerful concept called start with why. And what he's going to convey is that companies don't make products just to generate revenue, not the successful ones. The successful companies get engaged and get you engaged in the change they want to make in the world, and you're a part of making that change when you really tap into that why. This is incredibly difficult. It's why when you get this right, these are the billion-dollar opportunities. So you can go this route, but there's a lot of swings and misses when you try this. Keep it in mind so that you can balance them. Just keep this one fundamental rule in mind when you're looking at how you view the totality of this problem and the value proposition canvas. Gain creators are not the opposite of pain relievers, right? I'm a mechanic. My pain is I can't order enough parts. So the gain creator then becomes you can order parts faster. Not that your pain reliever, right? Your pain reliever is a system that allows you to do that. So it's not a simple concept to think about when you think about filling out the parts of the value proposition canvas left and right. Fill them out by job, pain reliever, job, gain creator, if you can. That's a better way to look at it because it's that relationship between what you're trying to achieve and how a human being will use it. Okay, so lastly, now you can start talking about your widget and how many gigawatts it uses. And this is good. And you may be starting to talk to some influencers in the crowd that the decision makers can listen to. But again, keep the jargon at a minimum and keep your story about how these technical aspects of your product are actually going to allow someone to solve a problem that they couldn't solve before. Okay, shorter presentation today, just 10 minutes. We can jump into the Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing to see if anybody has any questions.
Hey, Bull, so you said the pitch is usually 8 minutes long?
Yeah, 7 to 8 minutes is pretty typical, right? Everyone's heard of the elevator pitch where you may have somewhere between 30 seconds to up to 2 minutes. But we want to, in the way that we're conveying this, these are people who are prepared to hear what you're looking to say. And if you can't get to the point in 7 to 8 minutes, you're pretty much starting to wear them out. If they want to know more after that, they need to be ready to ask you and you need to be ready to answer.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. It's a key point though, that's how you should be practicing this, right? If you're really trying to give a pitch to someone to get an answer, you need to be in front of a mirror, practicing that pitch over and over and over again to get it tighter and tighter and tighter. Be really focused on an economy of words, get it down to 7 or 8 minutes. right? If the people you live with are really sick of hearing your pitch, you're about halfway through the number of repetitions you ought to go. Great. What else? What other questions can we answer? Okay, guys, so short presentation today. In the chat, what we'll try and do is drop in for you a couple of links. And so the first link that we want to try and get you to is one where you can order a book that our company has about innovation. Our teammate, Sabre Horn, wrote a book called Creating Innovation Navigators. And so if you have an interest in that, we'll try and get that link to you in the chat. And then the other thing that I'd highly encourage you to check out is that H4D problem sponsor opportunity. We help about 60 universities across the world run a class called Hacking for Defense, and we take real world, particularly DoD problems. We bring them into grad students in these universities from Stanford to Columbia. I think King's College over in the UK is still running, of course. And they work on these problems, but more importantly, you as a sponsor of those problems are sitting right there and you're invited to the class with the students. So it's a great way to learn same kind of innovation and entrepreneurship content that students are being taught at leading universities. So I highly encourage you to check both those things out. If there's nothing else for me, I'm going to stay on the line for maybe another 5 or 10 seconds, and then we'll declare victory for today. Okay, guys, thanks a lot.